Hello. We're gonna get spicy here on this channel again today. If you hear any background noise, that's Avi. She's mad. She wants to be let out of her cage, but I wanted to get my filming done before I release the ferrets. Today we're going to be talking about a somewhat controversial subject, which has pretty much run its course, I think, but you know me, I'm always behind the times. The other week, I was listening to Book Community, which is an amazing channel with Jess Owens. You should check it out. I love her videos. I'm addicted to her community videos because she keeps me up to date on what's happening in the bookish world, because in general I'm clueless. And also, she has a dog named Nigel, and I have a cat named Nigel, and that means, like, I have to watch her channel. Those are the rules, I'm pretty sure. So go check her out. I will link her channel in the doobly-doo. It's good stuff. One of the segments she was talking about got me thinking, though. And that segment, they were talking about something that happened with a book that I have not read, From Blood and Ash, which is one of those popular, steamy fantasy romances that I don't really read. Apparently, the lead character of Poppy is supposed to be a plus-size girl. She's supposed to be curvy but athletic. I, again, have not read the books, and I wasn't going to read them just to talk about this subject, but that's how Jess said that she was described, so I'm going with it. The problem arose in a piece of fan art, and I guess there has been fan art that did depict Poppy as a stereotypical skinny girl, but for some reason this piece of fan art just got a lot of people's attention. I tried to find the fan art in question and I can't find it anywhere, so I don't know if it was taken down or if it's on somebody's specific page that I can't find it, but I did find Pinterest boards and stuff with a lot of fan art of Poppy, and it's pretty mixed. About half the time she's a skinny girl, and about the other half she's at least got big boobs and big thighs. So some people are making an attempt while still keeping her sort of quote-unquote classically attractive, while some people are just no, she's stick thin. If you do go watch Jess's channel, her Book Community episode, again linked in the doobly-doo, she does have an example of the fan art, so if you're curious what that looks like, you can hop over there and check that out. And people were very upset about it because it did depict Poppy as a skinny girl. And you know how people can get, especially on Twitter, where everything is a reason to lose your fucking mind. And so people aren't just normal upset about things on Twitter. They are devastated and shaken to the core. And so people were very upset about this piece of fan art and claiming that the creator of the fan art was taking everything away from who Poppy was, blah, blah, blah. And apparently the author refused to condemn the fan art. The author came down on the side of, well, while I do hope that people will view Poppy the way that I intended her, I also understand that I don't have control over how people will view my character. And that upset people even more. Of course it did. Of course it did. Because the author, wasn't putting her foot down and saying, no, this fan art is wrong, you were incorrect about my character. Which led to people saying that, and I'm paraphrasing, if you want a more in-depth, please go check out Jess's video, where she reads a lot of the tweets and everything. But that led to people saying that, well, if people aren't seeing your character the right way, that must mean that you're a bad writer because you have failed to get your character across to the reader. And that really got me thinking, how much is it an author's responsibility to make sure that their reader is seeing a character the correct way in their head? So I have my own opinions, and then I also ask people on my Twitter and I think on my YouTube, so I'll read their opinions as well. In fact, I think I might lead with their opinions and then come around to my own opinion. I've got Guilty Spark, my tablet here. Oh, if you're wondering my base where I'm coming from, if you're new around here, hi. I'm Julian Greystoke. I'm an author as well. I'm the author of The Wolf and the Hawk, a fantasy romance, which you can purchase right now on Amazon, the sequel to which will be coming out sometime soon. So on my YouTube, I did a poll on my YouTube community in which I asked, how much responsibility do you think an author has for how a reader pictures a character? And then I put a period instead of a question mark because I'm a professional. If someone pictures a character wrong, do you think it is the author's fault for not doing their job, or is it a sign of an inattentive reader? I had 67 votes. 6% said it is the author's job. 4% said an inattentive reader. So people are really not eager to blame readers for being inattentive, which I think I have a lot of readers who answered this poll, so they don't want to call themselves out. 84% said readers will picture whatever no matter what you do. And then 6% said other, which is in the comments. Let's read some comments. This person says, it's the author's job to point out specific details if they're relevant. Maybe eye, hair, skin color if it matters, facial scar, webbed toes, etc. Other than that, a reader is going to imagine them however they want, and that's probably a good thing. This person says, I really don't think there is a wrong way to picture a character. You could give two people the exact same detailed description and they would imagine two different people. This person says, I find it hard to picture a character from the description alone. I usually need a visual reference too, something like fan art or an actor from the movie adaptation, which is interesting. That's not something that I have to have, but I wonder how many readers struggle to picture a character unless they have something to base it off of. That's interesting. That's where fan art could really come in and potentially kind of mess people up, because if the majority of the fan art is not how the author described the character, then you could end up viewing the character, I don't want to say the wrong way, but like getting an inaccurate idea of what the author intended them to look like. This person also says that some readers will impose their own picture no matter what you do. And some readers will hunt for any potential clue they can cling to from the author to claim is the hill they will die on. Now, most people are coming down on the side of readers are going to picture what they picture. Yes, we should have some description, but don't go too in depth. But this person does say, it's the author's job for me. I personally loathe books where the authors either barely describe the characters or not at all. Granted, the author doesn't need to throw every detail in, but if I have to conjure my own picture for someone else's characters, it drives me nuts. I want to view these characters the same way the author does, not whipped up from my own imagination. So that is a little bit different from what a lot of people are saying, and it's interesting to see other people's side of it. This person also says, I voted that it's the author's job to describe the character, but I also know that fandom will do what it wants. Yeah. So that's how we are thinking over on YouTube, but let's go over to Twitter. By the way, if you're interested in having your comments read in any of these videos, I do sort of randomly put up polls and questions on my community page, so I suggest that you subscribe to me so you might more easily see those sorts of things. Over on Twitter, I asked, do you think the author is 100% responsible for how readers imagine the character's appearance? And if the reader gets it wrong, does that mean the author sucks at their job? 92% of the 14 people who voted said, no, it is not the author's fault, and 7.1% of people said yes, it is. This person mentions that they don't really care about the outward appearance of the characters, and they're much more interested in what's going on with them, psychologically, and their persona, and yeah, I agree with that too. This person said, I voted yes, as I feel it's up to the author to convey everything they imagine as best they can, and it's a mark of a skilled author to put that image in your head. If people misinterpret you, then you've either done something wrong, or you're good at hiding things in plain sight. Interesting take. This person says, I once read a book that even though the author described a character, I couldn't see them as anything other than a walking, talking suit of armor. I have no idea why. Person says, no, there's no avoiding it. Everyone creates their own mental image of something described in words. Art classes will literally hold units on this, or at least mine did, just to see how everyone perceived it. Everyone created something different. So those aren't all the comments. You can still go to my YouTube or my Twitter to read all of the comments, but a lot of them were kind of on the same page of, yes, it is the author's job to describe the characters, but at a certain point, the author just cannot control how authors view the characters. They might view them as a walking, talking suit of armor, and there's really nothing that the author could do about it. And I've done that too. I read a book a while ago where the love interest was not described, and so I just decided what he looked like. And he was described later on, and I ignored it because I had already decided, the author waited too long, and I had already decided what he looked like, and I wasn't deviating from that anymore. So what is my opinion? Pretty much the same as what a lot of other people were saying. I do personally like to describe my characters fairly thoroughly, and I also like to put in reminders in my books of what those characters look like, because I am an incredibly visual person. By the way, anybody who's saying that they are struggling to visualize characters, maybe check out a video, I'll try to remember to link in the doobly-doo, about brain blindness, mind blindness, or whatever. I have basically the opposite of that. I picture everything super, super clearly. And so to me, it's important for me to get across what my characters look like in my own head. But I know some authors don't necessarily do a lot of that. The real question is if there's fan art that is wrong, should you as the author come down on that fan art and say that it's wrong? And I don't think so. I remember someone mentioning that they don't believe in death of the author and that the author's intention is the be-all and end-all, the final word on what a character looks like, or if something is true or not in their world. A sort of J.K. Rowling situation where what she says apparently just goes about her world. Well, I don't get why Draco Malfoy can't be a vampire if you want him to. One thing that also made me curious is the example of Rue in the Hunger Games. A couple people did mention this in their comments, but I didn't want to spoil it when I got to this part. But a few people did mention Rue and how when the movies came out, people were surprised to find out that Rue had brown skin. And some people were even deeply upset about that, even though it is in the book. It's in the book. Now, Suzanne Collins did not shove it in your face. Every time Rue appeared, she wasn't like, Rue and her brown skin, Rue, the brown-skinned girl. But it was in there, and many authors try not to shove it in your face. So I do think inattentive reading is legitimately a thing, and if you didn't notice a detail, I also don't think we need to shame you for it. But a lot of people were shocked to discover that Rue has brown skin. Also, I have had many people on my channel defend books where the author doesn't describe the characters at all. It's all down to your personal taste. Some people absolutely love books where a lot is left up to their imagination. I'm not one of those people, but we can't just condemn all books that don't describe characters because often it's intentional. It's not because the author sucks. They're doing it on purpose. In my book, The Wolf and the Hawk, the main character, Rayoni, is described many times, to the point where I've gotten the note that I maybe describe her too many times, that she is big and muscular. She is not a small lady. And even though it is abundantly clear in the book, I have still gotten fan art of her as a dainty, slim lady. And I'm not going to turn away that fan art. I'm not going to say, nope, I hate this fan art because you didn't draw her the way that I described her. Sometimes you just cannot control how readers are going to picture your characters, even if you are very clear. But now let's talk about a problem that we cannot gloss over with this particular situation, and that is the skinny washing of Poppy. Because we are dealing with a character whose physical description makes her stand out among other heroines in fantasy stories. More often than not, your fantasy heroine is going to be classically pretty, small, dainty, slim. And so to have one that is specifically described as at least curvy, definitely leaning towards plus size in her descriptions, from what I understand, again, I have not read the books, I totally get why people would be excited because that's representation. They're like, finally, I have been waiting for a main character that looks like me, who is badass, who still makes out with a hot guy. And I understand that, and that is where we run into a little bit of trouble, and I can see why people are upset about the fan art, even if I don't agree with them going after the author because of it. Because it's kind of two separate issues a little bit. Like, it's the same and it's different issues. I don't think that the author should condemn fan art if people picture the characters the wrong way. However, I do believe that people are allowed to just be upset, like not harassing people, normal upset, not Twitter upset. They're allowed to be unhappy that the character that they love because that character represents them doesn't look like them in majority of the fan art. That would be very frustrating. Like if there was an asexual character in the story, I'm asexual by the way, and every other piece of fan art was them having sex. And yes, I know asexuals can't have sex and can enjoy sex, but you know, I'm just being broad here. And of course there is the whole thing dealing with minorities, because many people enjoy the idea of Harry Potter having brown skin or being mixed race, and I've seen a lot of fan art of that, and from what I've seen, that fan art is fairly well received, even if it's not like canonical. But that's because we are taking Harry Potter from being a white person and making him into a minority instead of taking him as being a minority and making him into a white person. We're not whitewashing him. Versus if Hermione in the book was explicitly black and everyone was portraying her as white, we would definitely have a problem. And I think the big thing is we are missing who we should be mad at here. Because there's a reason that most people are picturing Poppy against what the author has tried to put on the page. They're still picturing her as, like, skinny. And that's, and I hate to say it because it's a cliche, but we live in a society. We have these beauty standards that have been entrenched into all of our brains since we were little bitty babies. And it's very difficult to root out and deal with those beauty standards. It's much easier to just let our brain default. Maybe ignore those descriptions because your brain just wants to give you a certain type of image to view as what a heroine should look like. Just like I'm sure we all have a view of what a hero should look like. They probably look a lot like Thor, right? Fantasy hero. If we had a plump male character, I think people would struggle just as much to picture him. Basically what I'm saying is, rather than going after the author, rather than going after the fan artist, I feel like we need to broaden our anger. And I know that's difficult on Twitter because we just want someone to blame, but there's a lot of things to blame, and it's an entire culture that is much of the problem, in my opinion, versus just readers not paying attention. I will never turn down fan art of my characters, even if they aren't drawn the right way. Because once I've written the book, I have no power after that. When the book is in your hands, I can't crawl into your brain and make you view everything the way I want you to. At least, not until the mind control ray is finished. So those are my thoughts. Definitely go watch Jess's video for more of the details of the situation, which is probably blown over about 1,000,000 years ago by now, but you know what? I still wanted to talk about it because it was in my brain. It like hooked in my brain and wouldn't let me go. Comment your thoughts below, and like I said, if you want to be part of more of these and maybe have your comments read by me, probably subscribe would be the best way so that you see when things are posted. I also do tend to post polls over on my Twitter as well, so you can follow me over on Twitter. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking. And if you want to help me publish my books, you can support me over on Patreon, where all of your donations go towards helping me self-publish, because it's expensive. It's not cheap. But for now, I will say goodbye. I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I'm going to be salting about next time. Apparently I'm just crappy. I better let those ferrets out now, though. For all I know, Avi has already escaped. She may have done a jailbreak while I was in here filming. Bye.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Steve, Kit, Hidden Glade, Persephone, Light Julie, OS, Anna, Belle, Patrick, and Sophie, Callison, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, Lennox, and Merween. She's a frothy little bubble with a frilly sort of air, and with very little trouble I could pull out all her hair. Oh, why would a fella want a girl like her, a girl who's merely lovely? Why can't a fella ever once prefer a girl who's merely me?